Commander Vex-Thol stared at the prisoner manifest with what humans might have called amusement, if they understood the subtle twitching of his four mandibles. 3 standard rotations ago, his ship, the Crimson Talon, had intercepted a small human vessel drifting near the Proxima trade routes. Inside, 1 female, designation Captain Maya Stone. The irony was delicious. "Sir," his second-in-command, Lieutenant Kral 9, approached with clicking footsteps on the metal deck. "The human refuses to cooperate with interrogation protocols." Vex-Thol's antenna twitched. "Refuses? How quaint. What methods have you attempted?" "Neural probes, sonic disruptors, even the pain amplifiers. She just sits there, Commander," smiling. Now that was interesting. Vex-Thol had been hunting humans for 7 cycles, ever since the Galactic Council had declared their homeworld, Earth, a Class 12 death world. The highest classification possible. No sane species would evolve on such a nightmare planet, they said. Constant natural disasters, predators that could kill with a single bite, weather patterns that shifted from freezing to scorching within hours. Yet here, these impossible creatures were, spreading across the galaxy like some cosmic joke. "Show me to the Detention Bay," Vex-Thol commanded, his voice a low rumble that made the bridge crew straighten. "I want to see this legendary human resilience for myself." The Detention Bay hummed with the familiar sound of containment fields. Vex-Thol had designed this section personally, incorporating fear-inducing frequencies, pressure variations, and lighting that would disorient most species. The perfect environment for breaking stubborn prisoners. He stopped in front of Cell Block 7 and nearly laughed. Captain Maya Stone sat cross-legged on the metal floor, eyes closed, breathing slowly. Her auburn hair was tied back in a simple knot, and despite 3 days of captivity, she looked comfortable, like she was meditating in some peaceful garden instead of a prison designed to break minds. "Human," Vex-Thol called out, his translator converting his words into her primitive language. "I am Commander Vex-Thol of the Crimson Talon. You will answer my questions." Maya opened one green eye and looked at him. Actually, looked at him. Most species couldn't maintain eye contact with a Krathari warrior for more than a few seconds without cowering. This small female studied him like he was an interesting specimen. "Well, hello there, big guy," she said, her voice carrying that distinctive human quality he'd learned to recognize. Sarcasm. "Nice ship you've got here. The decor really screams compensating for something, doesn't it?" Vex-Thol's mandibles clicked in confusion. "You are my prisoner. You will show respect." "Oh, I'm showing plenty of respect." Maya stood up, brushing dust off her simple jumpsuit. "I respect that you managed to capture me while I was sleeping. I respect that you've kept me fed. I even respect those adorable little torture devices your boys have been trying on me." "Torture devices?" Vex-Thol stepped closer to the containment field. "Those are sophisticated interrogation tools, refined over centuries to break the strongest minds in the galaxy." Maya tilted her head, and for a moment Vex-Thol saw something flicker in her eyes, something that made his secondary hearts skip a beat. "Oh, sweetie," she said, and the temperature in the detention bay seemed to drop several degrees. "Where I come from, we call that Tuesday." The commander's antenna flattened against his skull. This was not going according to plan. "Your homeworld is a death world, human. We know of its dangers. Your species' tolerance for pain is documented." "Documented by whom?" Maya asked, walking to the front of her cell. The containment field hummed between them, but somehow Vex-Thol felt like she was the one holding him prisoner. Have any of your searchers actually been to Earth? Of course not. No civilized being would set foot on that nightmare planet. Maya's smile grew wider, and Vex-Thol realized with growing unease that humans had far too many teeth. That's what I thought, she said. You know, back home, we have a saying. You can't understand the ocean by looking at a drop of water. Primitive philosophy means nothing here, human. You are alone, light years from your precious Deathworld. Your ship is destroyed. Your crew, if you had one, assumes you are dead. What could you possibly hope to accomplish? Maya sat back down, but this time she maintained eye contact. I'm hoping to teach you something, Commander Vex-Thol. Teach me? The commander's laugh was a harsh, grating sound that made his subordinates flinch. What could a primitive Deathworlder possibly teach a Krathari commander? Patience, Maya said simply. Before Vex-Thol could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Red emergency lights bathed the detention bay in an ominous glow, and his comm unit crackled to life. Commander, we've got multiple contacts on long-range sensors. Unknown configuration. Approaching fast. Vex-Thol's blood went cold. Unknown ships in this sector could mean pirates, rebels, or worse. He turned back to Maya, who was now standing again, her expression unreadable. Expecting someone? He snarled. Oh, you could say that, Maya replied, checking what appeared to be a small chronometer on her wrist. Right on time, actually. Impossible. We destroyed your ship. We scanned for distress beacons. Maya's smile became predatory. Commander, let me share another Earth saying with you. Never corner something nastier than you are. The ship shuddered as something impacted the hull. Not weapons fire. Something had physically struck the Crimson Talon. Sir, Lieutenant Kral 9's voice echoed through the comm. We're being boarded. Multiple breach points. They're using some kind of. They're cutting through our hull like paper. Vex-Thol's 4 eyes widened. Krathari battle steel was among the strongest materials in the galaxy. What could cut through it so easily? Who are they? He demanded, both to his lieutenant and to Maya. Maya began stretching, rolling her shoulders and cracking her knuckles in a way that made Vex-Thol's skin crawl. Well, she said conversationally, remember how you mentioned my crew? Another impact shook the ship, and the lights flickered. They're Space Marines, Commander. Human Space Marines. And they're probably wondering why their captain missed her scheduled check-in. Vex-Thol felt something he hadn't experienced in decades of warfare. Genuine fear. Impossible. The file said you were alone. A merchant, Captain. The file was right, Maya agreed. I am a merchant captain. I trade in a very specific commodity. What commodity? Maya's green eyes seemed to glow in the emergency lighting. Information. You see, the Galactic Council has been very curious about Krathari ship designs, battle tactics, and detention protocols. My job was to get captured, study your methods, and report back. The ship shuddered again, and this time the sound of plasma cutters could be heard through the bulkheads. You let yourself be captured. Let myself? Maya laughed, and the sound raised every hair-like sensory organ on Vex-Thol's body. Commander, I've been out of those restraints since day one. Your sophisticated locks? A 10-year-old from Earth could pick them. Your torture devices? We use more intense equipment in our physical fitness programs. Your fear-inducing frequencies? They're actually quite relaxing. Remind me of whale songs. She walked to the wall of her cell and pressed her hand against a seemingly random spot. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a small communication device. Maya to Reaper Squad. I'm in Detention Bay 7. The commander is with me. How's the welcoming party going? A gruff male voice responded immediately. Maya, thank the void you're alive. We've secured sections 1 through 4. Minimal resistance. These bug boys fold faster than origami. Copy that, Sergeant Banks. Try to keep some alive for questioning. Command wants intel on their fleet positions. Roger, Captain. ETA to your position. 3 minutes. Maya closed the panel and turned back to Vex-Thol, who was staring at her in shock. You've been free this entire time? Free as a bird, she confirmed. Though I have to say, your hospitality has been terrible. The food tastes like recycled boot leather, and don't get me started on the sleeping arrangements. But why? Why stay imprisoned if you could escape? Maya's expression grew serious. Because, Commander, you and your kind keep underestimating humans. You see our small size, our single hearts, our fragile-looking bodies, and you think we're weak. But you forgot to consider what made us this way. The sound of plasma fire was getting closer. Earth didn't just try to kill us. Commander, it succeeded, billions of times. Every human alive today is descended from the ones who were too stubborn to die. We evolved on a planet that throws hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, ice ages, and asteroid impacts at us on a regular basis. Our ancestors looked at saber-toothed tigers and said, I bet I can tame that. Vex-Thol backed away from the cell, though he didn't know why. She was still contained. We're not the strongest species in the galaxy, Maya continued. We're not the fastest, or the smartest, or the most technologically advanced. But we have one trait that you and the rest of the Galactic Council seem to have forgotten about. What trait? Maya pressed another hidden panel, and her cell door slid open with a soft hiss. We're vindictive. The Detention Bay doors exploded inward, and through the smoke came shapes that made Vex-Thol's nightmare seem tame. Humans in powered armor, moving with predatory grace, weapons trained on everything that moved. They were smaller than Krathari warriors, but something about them radiated violence so pure it was almost elegant. Captain Stone, one of them called out, his voice electronically distorted by his helmet speakers. Are you injured? Not a scratch, Sergeant, Maya replied, stepping out of her cell. Though I am a bit disappointed. I was expecting these Krathari to be more impressive. She walked over to Vex-Thol, who found himself unable to move. Fear, confusion, and wounded pride warred in his mind. You want to know the really funny part, Commander? Maya asked, stopping just outside his reach. Humans aren't even considered particularly dangerous on Earth. We're somewhere in the middle of the food chain. You want to see what a real Earth predator looks like? She gestured to one of the Marines, who reached into a container on his belt and pulled out a small, furry creature with large eyes and pointed ears. This is a domestic cat, Maya said. We keep them as pets, companion animals. They're small, adorable, and humans across the galaxy share pictures of them for entertainment. The cat looked at Vex-Thol with golden eyes, and the commander felt his soul shrivel. That harmless little creature, Maya continued, is responsible for the extinction of over 60 species on Earth. Cats kill for fun, Commander. They don't eat what they catch half the time. They just enjoy the hunt. She picked up the cat, which began making a strange rumbling sound. And we thought they were so cute. We brought them with us to the stars. The rumbling grew louder, and Vex-Thol realized the creature was expressing contentment, while staring at him like he was prey. Now, Maya said, her voice taking on a businesslike tone. "I have some questions for you, Commander. And unlike your methods, mine actually work." She sat down in the chair that had been brought for interrogators, still holding the small predator. "Sergeant Banks, please escort the good Commander to interview room 1. I think it's time we had a proper chat." As the armored Marines flanked him, Vex-Thol found his voice. "Wait, I don't understand. If your species is so dangerous, why haven't you conquered the galaxy?" Maya looked up from scratching behind the cat's ears. "Who says we haven't?" The implication hit Vex-Thol like a meteor strike. The trade agreements, the peaceful human colonies, the merchant vessels that seemed to be everywhere. "Oh, Void preserve us," he whispered. Maya's smile was gentle, almost kind, which somehow made it infinitely more terrifying. "Don't worry, Commander. Humans are actually quite reasonable. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We just want to make sure nobody else does either." As the Marines led him away, Vex-Thol heard Maya speaking to her sergeant. "Make sure he's comfortable, Banks. And get him some real food. That processed stuff they've been feeding me would be considered cruel and unusual punishment back home." "Copy that, Captain. What about the rest of the crew?" "Standard protocol. Anyone who cooperated gets a ride home and a good reference. Anyone who didn't—" Maya paused, and her voice took on that casual tone humans used when discussing violence. "Well, let's see how they handle a taste of their own medicine." The detention bay doors closed behind them, but Vex-Thol could still hear that creature's satisfied rumbling. He was beginning to understand why the galaxy's most successful predators had decided to keep humans as pets. Actually, he was starting to suspect it might be the other way around. Interview Room 1 aboard the Crimson Talon had been designed to intimidate. Harsh lighting, uncomfortable seating, walls that seemed to close in on whoever sat opposite the interrogator. Now, Vex-Thol found himself on the wrong side of his own psychological warfare. Captain Maya Stone entered carrying 2 steaming cups and that damned cat still purring in the crook of her arm. She'd changed from her prison jumpsuit into what appeared to be a casual uniform, complete with rank insignia that made Vex-Thol's eye stalks twitch. "Coffee?" she offered, setting 1 cup in front of him. "It's from Earth. Fair warning, it's stronger than most species can handle." Vex-Thol stared at the dark liquid suspiciously. "Is it poisoned?" "Commander," Maya laughed, settling into her chair with fluid grace. "If I wanted you dead, you'd be dead. Besides, poisoning goes against human military code. We prefer our enemies alive and talking." She sipped her coffee and sighed contentedly. "Much better than that recycled protein paste you've been serving. Seriously, how do you people maintain morale eating that garbage?" "We are warriors," Vex-Thol replied stiffly. "Comfort is weakness." "Is it, though?" Maya scratched the cat's chin, causing its purring to intensify. "Because, from what I've observed, your crew seems pretty miserable. Low efficiency, high stress hormones, constant fear." Responses. That's not warrior discipline. That's just poor management. Vex-Thol's mandibles clicked irritably. "You know nothing of Krathari culture. I know you've lost 3 major engagements in the past 2 years, Maya replied casually. I know your empire is hemorrhaging resources, trying to maintain control over systems that keep rebelling. And I know that right now, your superiors think the Crimson Talon was destroyed by pirates. The commander's 4 eyes widened. How could you possibly? Because, my confused friend, we sent the distress signal ourselves. Amazing what you can accomplish with a basic understanding of Krathari communication protocols. Maya leaned back in her chair. Your high command received a garbled transmission about engine failure, reactor breach, and hull decompression. Very tragic. No survivors. Vex-Thol felt his secondary hearts stop beating entirely. You've made us disappear. Temporarily. Think of it as extended shore leave. Maya's smile could have powered a small star. Your crew is currently enjoying human hospitality aboard our support vessels. Real food, comfortable quarters, entertainment systems that don't require mandatory patriotic indoctrination every 6 hours. They would never betray the Krathari Empire. Betray? Commander, we're not asking them to betray anyone. We're just showing them how the other half lives. Did you know that Lieutenant Kral 9 has never seen a sunset without atmospheric processors? Or that your engineering chief, Mox 7, has been writing poetry in secret for 20 years? Vex-Thol blinked in confusion. Poetry? Mox 7 writes poetry? Beautiful stuff, actually. Very melancholy. Lots of imagery about freedom and natural beauty. Your communications officer, Lev 3, has been learning to paint. Turns out she's quite talented. The revelation hit Vex-Thol like a plasma torpedo. His crew, his disciplined, loyal warriors, had hidden depths he never suspected. But that's impossible. The Empire trains us to focus only on duty, honor, conquest. And look how well that's working out for you, Maya interrupted gently. When was the last time you were genuinely happy, Commander? The question caught Vex-Thol off guard. Happy? Warriors didn't concern themselves with happiness. They lived for battle, for glory, for the expansion of the Empire, didn't they? I don't understand the relevance of that question. Maya set down her coffee cup and leaned forward. Commander, let me tell you something about humans. We tried the whole warrior culture thing for thousands of years. Endless wars, conquest, glory through violence. You know what we learned? That you were weak. That we were stupid. Maya's voice carried a weight of experience that made Vex-Thol's antenna flatten. All that fighting, all that death. And for what? More fighting and more death. It wasn't until we started working together, sharing resources, actually talking to each other, that we became dangerous. She gestured to the walls around them. You call us a Deathworld species, but the truth is, Earth stopped being a Deathworld the moment we decided to stop fighting each other and start fighting the planet instead. Fighting the planet? Maya grinned, and Vex-Thol was reminded again of just how many teeth humans had. Hurricanes? We developed weather control systems, earthquakes, seismic dampeners, volcanoes, geothermal energy conversion. We didn't conquer our world, Commander. We made friends with it. The cat in her arms stretched, extending claws that looked far too sharp for such a small creature. The really beautiful part, Maya continued, is that once we stopped spending all our energy killing each other, we had time to think, to invent, to explore. Do you know what humans invented in just the last century? Vex-Thol remained silent, but his curiosity was growing despite himself. Faster-than-light communication, gravity manipulation, medical nanites that can cure genetic diseases, terraforming technology that can transform dead worlds into gardens. Oh, and my personal favorite. Maya reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, crystalline device. Consciousness transfer technology. What does that do? It allows us to copy and transfer memories, experiences, even personality patterns between individuals. Maya held up the device, which pulsed with soft blue light. Very useful for training purposes. For example, if we wanted to show someone what it's really like to live on Earth. Vex-Thol's blood turned to ice water. You wouldn't dare. Wouldn't I? Maya's expression grew serious. Commander, your empire has been raiding human colonies for 3 years, capturing civilians, destroying supply ships, executing prisoners. You've killed over 40,000 innocent people. They were obstacles to expansion, enemies of the empire. Maya's green eyes hardened. They were families, Commander. Parents, children, grandparents. People whose only crime was living in space your empire wanted to claim. She activated the device, and Vex-Thol felt something probe the edges of his mind. Not painful, but profoundly unsettling. This contains the memories of Marcus Webb, age 7. He was on a colony ship that your forces intercepted near the Vega system. Would you like to experience his final moments? No, Vex-Thol whispered. How about Dr. Elena Vasquez? She was a medical researcher working on a cure for Centauri fever. Your soldiers executed her while she was treating wounded civilians. Stop. Maya deactivated the device, but her gaze never left Vex-Thol's face. Those people had names, Commander. Lives, dreams, people who loved them. And your empire erased them like they were nothing. Vex-Thol felt something crack inside his chest. Not physically, but something deeper, more fundamental. I was following orders. The Empire teaches us that other species are inferior, that conquest is natural law. The Empire teaches you lies, Maya said quietly. Just like every empire throughout history. The strong deserve to rule. The weak deserve to suffer. Might makes right. It's all garbage, Commander. Sophisticated, well-packaged garbage. She stood up, still cradling the cat, and walked to the room's single viewport. Outside, Vex-Thol could see human ships arranged in perfect formation. Sleek, elegant vessels that somehow looked both peaceful and incredibly dangerous. You want to know the real difference between humans and the Krathari Empire? Maya asked, her back still turned. We figured out that the strongest civilizations aren't built on fear and conquest. They're built on cooperation and mutual benefit. Impossible. The galaxy is a hostile place. Only the strong survive. Maya turned around, and her smile was sad. Commander, how many species has the Krathari Empire uplifted from primitive worlds to galactic citizenship? Uplifted? What do you mean? Helped develop technology, shared resources, provided education and medical assistance. How many? Vex-Thol thought carefully. The Empire conquered species, subjugated them, used them as labor forces. But uplifting? None. Why would we waste resources on inferior species? The human commonwealth has uplifted 17 species in the past 50 years, Maya said calmly. The Altarians were still using chemical rockets when we found them. Now they're among our best starship engineers. The Kalari were dying from a genetic plague. Human medical technology saved their entire species, and now they're partners in our biological research programs. She sat back down, and the cat jumped onto the table, fixing Vex-Thol with those unnerving golden eyes. The Zephyrians were trapped on a tidally locked world, slowly freezing to death. We helped them relocate to 12 different garden worlds and terraform 3 more to their specific environmental needs. In return, they share their incredible artistic traditions and serve as cultural ambassadors throughout human space. Vex-Thol's worldview was crumbling like a house made of sand. But why? What do humans gain from helping weaker species? Everything, Maya replied. Different perspectives, new technologies, art, music, literature, scientific breakthroughs we never would have discovered alone. The universe is vast and full of wonders, Commander. Why would we want to experience it by ourselves? The cat began cleaning its paw with mechanical precision, completely indifferent to the cosmic conversation happening around it. "You're trying to confuse me," Vex-Thol said weakly. "This is some kind of psychological warfare." "No, Commander. This is an education." Maya leaned forward again. "Your empire is dying. Not from external conquest, but from internal rot. You've built a civilization based on fear, oppression, and violence. It's unsustainable. The empire has existed for over 2,000 years. And how much of that time has been spent fighting rebellions, crushing dissent, and dealing with constant civil unrest? How many resources have been wasted on internal security instead of exploration and development?" Vex-Thol opened his mouth to respond, then closed it. The Empire did spend an enormous amount of energy maintaining control over its subjects. Maya seemed to read his thoughts. Humans learned something important during our violent period. It takes more energy to hold a fist closed than to hold a hand open. And you accomplish a lot more with the open hand. She gestured to the viewport again. "Those ships out there? They're not just human vessels, Commander. That cruiser on the left has a mixed crew of humans, Altarians, and Kalari. The destroyer on the right is commanded by a Zephyrian captain with human and Centauri officers. They're not serving under us. They're serving with us. But humans are the dominant species in your Commonwealth." "Are we?" Maya smiled mysteriously. "Or are we just the ones who happen to invent faster-than-light travel first? The Commonwealth isn't a human empire with alien subjects, Commander. It's a genuine partnership between equals." The door chimed, and Sergeant Banks entered carrying a data pad. "Captain, we've finished processing the Krathari crew. As expected, about 60% want to remain with us. The rest want to return to Empire space. And we're honoring their choice, of course." "Of course. Transport ship leaves in 4 hours. We've provided them with enough supplies to reach the nearest Krathari outpost." Maya turned back to Vex-Thol. "Your crew, Commander. We gave them the choice. Stay and learn about human civilization, or return home. No coercion, no threats, no punishment for choosing either option." 60%? Vex-Thol's voice was barely a whisper. "They want to see what life is like when you're not constantly afraid of making mistakes, when your value isn't determined by your ability to inflict violence, when you can pursue interests and relationships without fear of being labeled weak or treasonous." The cat had finished cleaning its paw and was now staring at Vex-Thol again. Those golden eyes seemed to see right through him. "What about me?" he asked finally. Maya studied him for a long moment. "That's up to you, Commander. You can return to the Empire, report that the Crimson Talon was destroyed, and continue serving a system that treats people as disposable resources. Or ... Or you can stay and learn what it means to live instead of merely survive." She stood up and walked to the door. "Take your time deciding. You have until the transport leaves." "And if I stay?" Maya paused in the doorway. "Then you help us understand the Krathari Empire better. Not for conquest or espionage, but so we can figure out how to help your people transition to something better. Something that doesn't require constant fear and violence to maintain." "You would trust me? After everything I've done?" Maya's smile was warm and genuine. "Commander, humans have a saying. It's never too late to become the person you should have been. Your past doesn't define your future unless you let it." She left, taking the cat with her, and Vex-Thol was alone with his thoughts. Through the viewport, he could see Krathari crew members boarding human shuttles. Some looked excited, Others appeared nervous but hopeful. All of them were choosing their own path for perhaps the first time in their lives. Vex-Thol thought about Lieutenant Kral 9's poetry, about Mox 7's secret artistic pursuits, about his own question that had never occurred to him before. When was the last time he had been genuinely happy? He couldn't remember. But maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late to find out. The transport would leave in 4 hours. That gave him time to think, to consider what kind of person he wanted to become when the choice was entirely his own. Outside, a human child's laughter echoed through the corridors, followed by the sound of running feet and someone calling out, "No fair!" You had a head start. Vex-Thol had never heard children play before. In the Empire, offspring were immediately placed in training facilities, their natural curiosity and joy systematically crushed in favor of discipline and obedience. The laughter came again, joined by adult voices encouraging the game rather than stopping it. For the first time in his life, Commander Vex-Thol began to understand what humans meant when they talked about hope, and in 4 hours he would have to decide whether he was brave enough to choose it.